Tapes of Trepidation presents the Campfire Sessions. Hello, dear listeners, and welcome back to the Campfire Sessions. I'm so happy you've come back to join me by the campfire as more creepy stories are shared. Like many others, I got my first taste of creepy campfire stories when I was a kid. Looking back, there are some stories that may not have seemed creepy at the time, but thinking back, some childhood memories are darker than we remember. This evening, we're delving into 3 stories that explore terrifying childhood memories, beginning with the horrifying story of that time someone broke into my house. I was about 13 at the time, so that would mean this happened around 2009, I think. I'm bad at math. I was home alone one night when my parents went out somewhere. I think it was some work party or something. It involved alcohol, so they had to leave the car at home and take a taxi. I usually enjoyed being home alone at night. Mom would leave pizza money and I could play Xbox all night. It was Halloween break at the time, so I didn't have any school to worry about. The good old days. I remember being in a bit of a zombie phase, as I spent most nights playing Left 4 Dead 4 and COD 5 Zombie with my friends. Man, I'm telling you, pizza, snacks, a case of Dr. Pepper, and gaming with the boys? Heaven. Well, something happened on one of these nights that messed me up pretty bad. To the point that even now, I always double-check doors and windows. I never wear both cans of a pair of headphones at once. And I am still petrified of the dark. That one ruined a few relationships. I was playing Xbox as usual all night, and I was already a bit jumpy. I was playing alone that night, so I wasn't talking to anyone. I was playing Left 4 Dead 4, and the music and the sounds of the witch used to scare me. I was 13, shut up. So every dark corner and noise I heard was already freaky. I had my window open a bit, and I heard what sounded like someone walking up my gravel driveway. I thought it was my parents coming home, but when I looked outside, I couldn't see anyone. I remember just sitting in silence for a while my game paused, trying to listen out for other sounds, but I didn't hear anything. It was only a few minutes later, I heard the trash cans in our backyard falling over. I nearly jumped out of my skin. We didn't really get any raccoons or anything, so I started to panic a bit. I looked out the window in the hallway out into my backyard. I couldn't see anything. The trash cans did fall over, but I didn't see any raccoons, and it wasn't windy. It was raining a little bit, but that was it. I couldn't see the back door as the window looked down above the porch, and the porch roof blocked my view. There was definitely something happening. I went and stood at the top of the stairs and just stared into the darkness for I don't know how long, hoping that I didn't hear anything. All I could hear was the pitter-patter of the rain and my heartbeat in my ears. As I went to go back into my room, I heard it. Someone was trying the handle of the back door. I slowly made my way down the stairs and peeked around the corner and into the kitchen. The back door was wide open. My blood ran cold, and every hair stood up on end. I knew I had to call the police, but the phone was on the wall next to the fridge, in the kitchen. In what was one of the stupidest decisions of my life, I started walking towards the kitchen. It felt like my hallway was 1,000,000 miles long. My mind was racing with possibilities of what was waiting for me. Was someone gonna grab me? Were they just gonna stab me or shoot me or something? Every single scenario played out in my head. In each one, I ended up dead. Or worse. I finally made it into the kitchen. I tiptoed over to the phone. I lifted it up and dialed 911. And that's when I heard it. Aren't you supposed to be in bed, son? A voice echoing from the back of the kitchen near the window. A low, gravelly voice. I threw down the phone and ran. I could hear the man running after me. I ran faster than I ever had towards my front door. As I got to it, it flung open. It was my parents. I ran into my dad's arms and managed to get out through tears and panic that there was someone in the kitchen. As I looked back towards the kitchen, the man went running through the back door again and my dad ran after him. My dad came back a minute later and told my mom to call the cops. The cops asked me about what happened, but I couldn't give them a description as I couldn't see him in the darkness. They asked my dad where the guy ran off to, but my dad said that he jumped the fence and ran off into the trees. They never caught him. I've since moved into my own place and fitted every door and window with good quality locks. But while I still lived in my parents' house, every time I looked into those trees, I always felt like someone was watching me. Voice actor and friend of the show, Erik Fones, now joins us by the campfire to share the story of a young man experiencing something horrifying happen to a family member. This is It Stole My Cousin's Face.
I still remember the first time I saw it, also vividly. I had been sitting on the steps in front of my house with my cousin beside me, both of us with popsicles melting down our palms and gazing up into the blazing sun on a hot summer's day. But while I recall this scene, I can't help but remember the shift in the atmosphere that happened after. The feeling in my stomach that shot up into my core, that piercing feeling of wrongness that corrupted the warmth of the day. It had been the middle of the day with the sun still shining, yet I had never felt such a feeling of fear since. I couldn't understand it then, what had caused such a deep gut reaction, but now I know. That deep inside I could feel it. I could feel it before it came to us. I tried to look around for anything out of place, but could not find it. Then I noticed that my cousin's eyes had locked onto something, and he wasn't moving, nor was he speaking. I followed his gaze and looked to see. There standing before us was something different. It's so strange how I can remember that thing so very vividly, yet whenever I find myself trying to describe it, I can never find the words. All I can say was it was small, but it felt almost intelligent. It felt ancient, almost like the feeling you get when you look into the eyes of a gorilla or a chimp. That feeling that you are looking into the eyes of an intelligent form that's lived longer than you. I remember feeling like it was almost studying us. I could feel it looking at me, yet I could not find any eyes on the creature. It had no face, but it was looking right at me. It had felt like an eternity before I suddenly felt something very bad was going to happen. Something malicious was creeping into the air, and I think my cousin knew it too, because before I knew it, he grabbed my shirt, pulled open the front door, and slammed it shut, then double-locked it. We looked at each other in that moment. I swear I'd never seen that much fear in a person's face before, and I never want to see it again. As I opened my mouth to speak about what just had happened, he put his finger to his mouth and made the shushing sound. That's kind of how it was living in the area I grew up in. An old residential school that had been remodeled into an apartment building. You'd see weird shit all the time, but everyone knew not to bring attention to it. That's how you got them to attach themselves to you. Pretend like it never happened, and it never happens again. Now, if that were the end of it, then I wouldn't be here talking about it. Sure, it was strange, but I've seen weirder. However, what happened to my cousin months later was much worse than anything else I had ever heard about, and I just can't pretend like it never happened. After the first visit of the creature, my cousin became very ill. He wouldn't leave his bed or his room, and every time he did, he would just stare out the windows, unblinking and unmoving until someone would shake him out of it. He'd wake up in the latest hours of the night, doing nothing but screaming. It was always such an agonizing scream. It sounded guttural, like it was tearing his vocal cords apart in the process. I couldn't stand to see my cousin like that. And I guess my mom couldn't either, because after a few weeks of him being like that, she told me to pack and that we would be leaving immediately. Now this is the part that stuck with me. My mom had just finished carrying out the last of our luggage and was waiting for me in the car. I was still in the building because, while we were ready to go, my bladder was not. I washed my hands and I placed my palm on the knob to turn it. I could feel a deep warmth resonating from the other side. I opened it and was face to face with my cousin. He stared at me for the first time in months. He smiled at me. But I remember thinking in that moment something was wrong. The smile had too much teeth? I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's the only way I can describe it. And his skin had a strange elasticity to it, almost like it was slimy or moist with some kind of liquid. He told me that he wanted to show me something. He said that there was something great in the backyard behind the bushes. He said that I needed to see it, and even though I'd been very young, I could still tell that something was very wrong and very different about my cousin. I could see it in those grotesque eyes that held no soul and no human traces in it. I turned my head the other way and did not look back as I left the room. I did not look back even when I heard the wretched sound of bones cracking and a sound that sounded like rubber being torn apart. Only then, as I got into the car, did I finally look back, and my God, did I regret it. There it stood, just inches away from the truck as we pulled away from the cement curb. It looked like the mangled remnants of a human child, but it did not feel anything close to human. My cousin's corpse stared dead into my eyes and flashed its big toothy grin, the same toothy grin that I see every night I go to bed.
Our final tale this evening is the story of a young friendship. Is there anything more innocent than making a new friend? I can't imagine so as we hear the story of Jonny. I was lonely the day I met Jonny. I'd moved earlier that summer, and my shyness had so far ensured that my only companions were books. I spent most of my days perusing the shelves of the modest local library, or secluded away in my room, devouring page after page of fantastical adventures and strange tales, whittling away the time until the school year started. I can't explain why I decided to take a detour through a nearby forest on my way to the library that warm afternoon. Maybe it was the omnipresent hand of fate guiding my path. Or maybe it was simply the pleasant weather. Either way, that's where I first saw Jonny. He was standing in a small creek with his pants rolled up to his knee. His hair a pale tangle of uncombed wisps, and his skin as shallow as a white trout. He was so frail, and he looked eerily out of place among the forest-rich greenery. When his dark eyes met mine, I saw within them a loneliness even more prominent than my own. As if he had spent an eternity waiting for someone to arrive and had long ago given up hope that they ever would. I recognized immediately that he was a ghost. Yet when he waved at me, I returned the gesture without fear or hesitation. Unlike the phantoms and ghouls in the stories I'd read, somehow I knew this spectral boy had no desire to frighten me. He smiled faintly. I smiled back. And our friendship began. I abandoned my books in favor of spending afternoons with him at the creek, wading through the cool water and skipping stones across its glassy surface. I never asked about his past, and he never asked about mine. When I was with Jonny, nothing outside the forest mattered. Not my parents' divorce, or the long shifts my mom now worked, or my dad forgetting to call on my birthday. A ghost could never leave me, or let me down the way the living had. And for that reason, my friendship with Jonny became the most cherished thing in my unhappy life. We were catching minnows when he slipped and gashed his leg on a sharp rock. He howled in pain as I watched ribbons of his blood dance through the water like crimson ink, reeling as if I'd just been punched. Ghosts don't bleed, I said numbly. What? Jonny looked up at me in confusion. Come on, help me. I brought a rock down onto his head, over and over again, before pressing his face into the creek until his legs quit thrashing. I left him in the water and ran home, where no one was there to see the blood on my wet clothes. And now I lay awake in my bed, counting down the hours until I can return to the forest and see Jonny again. He'll be waiting for me, and he'll be a ghost. Thank you so much for joining me this evening for the 5th edition of the Campfire Sessions, here on Tapes of Trepidation. I hope you had as much fun as I did sitting around the campfire while these stories were shared. The stories featured on this edition were Someone Broke Into My House by Ross_PW. This story was originally posted on the Scary Stories subreddit and was narrated with author's permission. It Stole My Cousin's Face was written by Huckleberry Silly 764 and was originally posted on the Scary Stories subreddit. Narrated with author's permission. Guest narration was by Erik Fones. Contact Erik today through the email provided in the show notes. Jonny was written by CertainShadows and was originally posted on the Creepypasta Wiki. The Tapes of Trepidation theme and the wonderful acoustic version you're currently hearing was written and performed by JM Scherf. If you need any custom music or stock music, JM is the man and is awesome to work with. You'll find a link to contact him in the show notes. All logos, banners, and overlays, including the brand new Campfire Sessions overlay, were done by the incredible Jason Rees from Jaybird Digital Arts. If you need any kind of graphic design work done, Jason is your guy. You'll find a link to contact him in the show notes. If you enjoyed what you heard, consider subscribing, leaving a rating, and following Tapes of Trepidation on social media. You can find a link tree in the show notes. And if you feel like supporting the show a little more, consider joining the Tapes of Trepidation Patreon. With as little as $5 a month, you can gain access to monthly bonus short story narrations, the weekly behind-the-scenes podcast within the archive, a weekly shout-out, and more at higher tiers. Come, join us, and become trapped within the archive. Just like my current patrons, Doozer Pin Dan, Ronan Kumori, Erik Fones. No, wait a minute. Erik Fones. Yeah, I'm the same guy. Okay, cool. Thanks again, Erik, for allowing me to use your voice for this one. Patrick Stewart, Madam Strangeways, Dr. Torment, Tori, and Queen Cam. Thank you all so much for the support. I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. And if you enjoy what you heard today, consider checking out the rest of the archives of Tapes of Trepidation. We usually do things a little differently, with some more music, sound design, and things of that nature. And even some stories that are a little more, let's say, terrifying. So be sure to check it out while you're here. All content used on Tapes of Trepidation is either original, used with permission, or is available under Creative Commons by Share-alike license. Licensing information can be found in the show notes. Now, I think it's best if you head out for the night, as the fire's starting to die out, and you never know what may be lurking nearby in the dark. Hope to see you next time.